Welcome to the Mojo Market Report. Here's your hosts, Dave Sturchio and Chris Gueci.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition and episode of the Mojo Market Report, coming to you live from Chop Studios here on a Wednesday. It's Hump Day. It is April the 19th. 2023 with your host, of course, Dave Sturchio, alongside Chris Gueci, who was indulged and engulfed in NBA basketball last night, right?
I was, actually.
Oh, that's good. See, I was testing them. Some viewers out there can say that Chris maybe doesn't watch the games as much as he should, but
well, I mean, we'll define should. Who's like?
I mean, look, as long as you have the information and as long as you have at least the ability to watch some highlights once in a while,
I do.
It's not a prerequisite to watch every minute of every game.
Nobody
does
that. I can tell you all about Allen Robinson, though.
We will talk about Allen Robinson later on as he's dealt to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or at least pending physical that's going down today. We'll get into that. We'll get into the NBA slate in a little bit. But first, got to talk about the New York Rangers, baby. New York Rangers. 5-1 over the old Devils, the old New Jersey Devils. Listen, it's a fun time in New York right now. In New York, you have the Rangers, the Devils, the Islanders, right? And then you have the Knicks and the Nets. I mean, Nets don't look so good, and Knicks sure as hell didn't look good last night. But then you also have baseball going, where it's the Mets and the Yankees. It's a great spring. It's a great spring, but it's even better when the New York Rangers win a playoff game, and that's what they did last night, 5-1 at the Rock, or as some people like to call it, the Pebble, because that's how small they felt yesterday. But I won't get into all the hockey because Mojo does not carry hockey yet. I say yet because they're always adding new stuff. My liquid prop bets. I'm going broke this week, by the way. I'm like shooting for the overs of a lot of these guys because I think, playoff basketball, everybody's going to show out. It's going to be great, and it just falls flat, and I suck. So, how you doing over there?
I'm doing good. I think it's what are we going to get into?
Watch the Rangers Devils?
No, stop it, Dave. Come on now.
Come on, man.
And realistically, I asked somebody.
My man,
I asked Papa G. What was not my dad? Papa G.
Yes.
AKA.
Yes.
What the score was? He said 4-0. So I was like, oh, the game's definitely over. It's a hockey game. It might as well be 100-0. Why are we even watching?
Well, I will say this. This is the most relaxed I've ever been to a Rangers playoff game. Like, you knew as soon as those first two goals went through, you're like, all right, we're going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Once
very big enthusiast over here. Do you know that there was a guy last night, I have to say this, just because I'm old school. Guy last night in a hockey game, I believe he's an Islander. If not, maybe for your team, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I forget his actual name. And I'm sorry for this.
Who's the number one seed
He
this year?
deserves more respect than anybody else in the league. Gets hit with a skate across the face. 75 stitches applied. Comes back into the game.
There's no reason for that. Stop.
What do you mean there's no reason for that?
Okay, so could we technically get into the debate
here? This is the
here?
NBA. The guy be out a month.
No. If this was the NFL and they put him back in, everyone would be like, "What are you putting Tua back in? They should be fired." The team doctors. Did he pass protocol? What's going on? The dude had
don't know the protocol when it comes to that stuff.
75 stitches on your face. It's time to take a nap. Go talk to your kids, bro. Give it a rest.
In any event,
that doesn't impress me much.
That don't impress him much.
It doesn't impress me. It's actually disturbing.
We had some playoff action last night. Not much action per se. There was a lot of just dominating wins across the board. We start with the Hawks in Boston. I said that Trae Young would go out there and steal one in Boston, and Boston said, hold my beer. That was a silly comment, Dave. Never do it again. This game was never even in reach, lifeless. The Hawks just... They don't stack up. And again, these two games are in Boston, so yes, once they get back down to Atlanta at the Omni, I don't know if that's going to make a difference. I really don't.
I mean, maybe they win a game, like I said. Maybe they win a game. Maybe they win a game because it's, they can win an NBA basketball game. The Celtics can go cold from the field. They can, and Atlanta can get hot. So there is a shot that they win a game, but if we're actually talking about realistically, nobody thinks this is going to be a series.
I mean, now it's definitely not. I thought for sure.
I don't have to watch the games to tell you that.
Even when the Knicks played the Hawks a couple years back, you thought that it would be a series, but Trae Young just absolutely tore the house down every single night. So it's just like, okay, so why couldn't he do that again against a Boston team? I guess the Boston team's a lot more well-equipped than the Knicks were back then.
In those series against the Knicks, Trae Young was far and away the best player on the court. And he's not.
And he's not this time around.
He might not even be the second best player on the court.
He is not. So anyway, yeah, so that series is 2-0 very quickly. So to my beloved Knicks last night, I don't even know what to say. 107-90. that score doesn't even dictate what this game was like. There was points where I believe they were down by 28 or even 30. Probably 28 was the high, but like it didn't look good from jump. There was a couple times where they had the lead, and I was like, all right, as long as they just keep pace right now, we'll be fine. And then it was missed shot after missed shot after missed shot. I believe they missed 10 field goals in a row. And then obviously Mitchell did his thing, only 17 points, but the real story is Darius Garland. He goes for 33, I believe, and he just took over the game. So the basic, like, I want to say that this game was allowed to happen if you're a Knicks fan. Like, you're riding the high of that first win. You go out there, Mitchell, you know he's going to dial it up. And I know Mitchell's stat line didn't show
Nobody expected the Knicks to win yesterday. They were,
look,
you're hoping for the best, but going into the game,
17-point loss. Yeah. I didn't expect that.
Well, I didn't expect the Knicks to go in and win. I honestly, the fact that they split the first two, they took care of what they needed to do. If this was flipped and they won the second game, everyone would be completely happy as hell about it. It's just the momentum going into the Garden. They don't have it.
No, they don't have it, right.
But really, I mean, it doesn't matter. They're going to tip off. It's going to be 0-0. They're going to be the home team. What's momentum? They're one game apiece. It's not like they lost two in a row. I guess, it's...
Look, the goal is to split on the road when you're the lower seed.
Yeah,
that's
so
the goal.
It's a playoff series, bro. They're going to lose games. This is going to be a good series. Based off of what I saw in game one, this should be a really good series. Right. Yesterday, it's an anomaly, I think.
Again, I don't foresee the Knicks putting out a performance like that again back-to-back nights, especially in front of their hometown and the home crowd of the Garden.
The Garden.
Julius Randle, again, riddle me this, okay? And I like Thibs. I do. All right, I do like their head coach. I think he's a good head coach. He's been around the game for a very long time. What Julius Randle is doing at the end of the game last night, when the game is so far out of hand, and then they get hard fouled at the end and land, like, did you see the hit? I mean, he went down relatively hard, and I'm like, this could have been avoided. This could have been avoided. And of course,
Did he get 75 stitches in his face?
No, he didn't.
Oh, give me a break.
But Randle,
it's basketball. He could play.
Listen, no, he went up to dunk a ball, and he was fouled hard, and he literally fell underneath the court. So just like...
All the way underneath?
They call it a basketball court. The hoop. Whatever. The hoop. They call it a court.
So I was talking... Wow.
Yeah, I know. He went through the ground. No, but like...
Impressive.
He's a big boy.
Now I'm impressed.
Yeah, right. I just don't understand the reason or the logic behind the fact that he was in the game that late when the game was in hand, right? You take out your starters, you get your guys in there for some minutes. But now, all of a sudden, he's like... they got to come to the Garden now. And I'm like,
I think the Knicks would be better off with a different head coach, different direction. I think Tibbs is not the guy. But I understand he has had success. He's been a defensive guy. When he was with the Bulls, they were playing out of their mind for those couple seasons. But I'm not sold on him. I don't like the way he plays his rotation. But I'm also, admittedly, not watching every Knicks game. So
right.
I'm just going based on a couple of the guys that I trust their opinion that aren't really a big fan.
Yeah, so let's see if the Knicks can get it back. Game 3 is Friday night at the Garden, so that place will be rocking. And then Saturday at the Garden, the Rangers game 3 there. So the Garden in New York City is going to be the place to be over this weekend. So if you want to go book your tickets now, go watch their games. All right, ended the night with the Suns coming back and avenging that Game 1 brutal loss. They come back 123-109. Kawhi Leonard, though, I understand that the Suns got this game handedly. But Leonard's playing on another level right now. Like, if he keeps this up, you said to watch this series in particular, like, he's playing very good basketball. And like, when you see the Suns led by the Durants of the world and Booker and obviously Chris Paul, the star powers over there, Westbrook out there last night scoring 28. So he's out there 9 for 16, by the way, from the field. So all of a sudden, he's like, I can shoot still. Watch, this is going to happen. Clippers are going to make this a fun series, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it already is a fun series. Yesterday, it seems like it was a blowout down the stretch.
Yeah,
but
they tied it at half.
They each had 10-point leads in the game. I think the Clippers were up 10 in the second quarter, and they had a decent lead in the third. But then
they tied it with a buzzer beater at halftime. Was Booker? Nice shot,
okay.
Beautiful. Yeah,
they got within 4, and then they had a possession in the third quarter, or even in the fourth quarter, maybe. Yeah. But the Suns pulled away with it. Again, same kind of deal with the Knicks. The Clippers got to be happy, right? They're the 5 seed.
Yeah.
They go in there, they split on the road. Now they get home court shifted to them. I'm not so sure how important the Clippers home court is because I don't think that they have the biggest fan base, but it is playoff basketball.
It's LA.
And it is KD coming to town, so I'm sure they'll be excited for it. I'm curious to see how that goes in the next game. I think the team that wins the next game has a chance. Better chance to win the series. Clearly, they'll be up 2-1. But I think whoever wins the next game will win the series.
All right. Tonight on the docket for the NBA, the Lakers back at Memphis. Ja Morant, game time decision. I feel like whether or not he plays, I don't think it matters. I think the Lakers are playing at a different level of basketball right now. And I said that when LeBron got back and they had to, kind of readjust, recalibrate their team. LeBron's on a mission right now. I think if they go up 2-0 and they go back to L.A.
Aren't they?
It's 1-0.
1-0.
Game 2's tonight. But if they go back to L.A. up 2-0, man, it is all she wrote for Ja Morant.
Yeah,
and the
Ja
Memphis
Morant
Grizzlies.
X-rays negative, but it's a pain tolerance thing.
Yeah, that's not going to be easy.
Pain tolerance. Is it a shooting hand?
I don't know. But I do know that there was a thing where he gripped something and he couldn't do it.
Yeah, he couldn't do an unballed sock or whatever. He couldn't put his socks on. Dave.
Yeah, so
couldn't put his socks on.
So big sock
I'm not
guy.
so sure how 2 days later you're going to be able to shoot a basketball and do whatever he's got to do to be able to beat the Lakers. The Grizzlies might be done.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the Lakers are playing
They're
all
without
world.
their big man.
They're 9-1
depleted.
when all three of their guys are on the court at the same time. And I'm talking about LeBron, AD, and Russell. They're a cohesive unit, man. They're a dominating force. And I said it was a small sample size, but I also said that 2 weeks ago when the playoffs are getting close and they're looking at the top of the West and they're like, you know what? We get in there and we get hot. We could take this thing. So watch out for the Lakers. Miami visiting Milwaukee again tonight. Giannis doubtful for game 2. Jimmy Butler and company looking to go up 2-0. Does it happen?
I don't think so.
You think if Giannis don't go, you think the Bucks still have a shot?
Yeah, the Bucks have been in this spot before. Look at this season; they won the finals. Giannis missed some time, and they won those games.
Truth.
They're a good team. They have postseason experience. They're well coached, and it's not like the Heat are this powerhouse. The Heat could be had as well. I think Spoelstra's a great coach. You know my thoughts on the Heat, but I just can't see it with the desperation. And they do have some good players on that team. It's not just Giannis, and these guys know their role. So it's not like they have to have some guys step up. This is going to be one of those mid-major college basketball teams going up against the Heat. That's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah.
They don't have a star that's going to be able to take over, but they know what they're doing out there. Milwaukee, I think, is going to win the game. They're not dropping down 2-0. Can't see.
And do you have any faith in Karl Anthony Towns and company with Minnesota heading back into Denver? It was, like I said, it was a very brutal game 1 loss. You would assume that they don't play as bad, and they do come out and show out. But, I don't know, man. Denver just seems like they had clicking on all cylinders in game 1.
Minnesota plays even worse defense than Denver, seemingly. I can't see it happening. Karl Anthony Towns, I think, is still a little nicked up. He was out for the remainder of the regular season, to my understanding, right? And then
he came back. He came back. His first couple games, he played. His first game since November was in February, March. So so the back end of the season, he was back in there, and they reinserted him.
It doesn't even matter. Everything else that's going on. Gobert, I think it was probably the worst game he ever played on the heels of that whole beef and suspension.
Yeah,
right. It just doesn't seem to be clicking right now for Minnesota. I'm out on Minnesota. Denver's going to spank them.
All right. Before we move off the NBA and get to some NFL news, last night there was news from the Woj, a Woj bomb coming off on the Twitter, and that would be Draymond Green suspended for 1 game. Do you buy into this? Should it have happened? Should it not have happened? It's playoffs. Let it go. What are we doing?
It should have happened for multiple reasons. One, it was egregious. I don't think that it was something. It looked very WWE-like because I don't think
Sabonis sold the hell out of it.
I don't think he kicked him as hard as Sabonis made it seem, but he did do what he did, right? And it was a clear, egregious stomp. And then I think what Draymond's suspension is looming for, it's everything else, the antics after the post-game, the podcast, it's just a consistency with him that he's bucking trends. And when you're doing what he was doing with the fans, it's bro, you're embarrassing yourself, you're embarrassing the league. I don't care, right? But that's the way the league is viewing it. And then you go out there and you have this to say and that to say. And everybody saw what they saw. Sabonis should have been called for a foul. You know what I mean?
For
maybe
grabbing
even
the
a
leg?
flagrant.
Yeah.
100%. He did what he did too. It's not like you could overlook that. But he didn't earth stomp somebody like Ndamukong Suh, right. And then do what else he did to try and sell that he was being tripped. It was a clear flop/stomp or stomp/flop.
And that was the finish of the match. Green won. 1, 2, 3. It was it. So we had the stomp and the flop and all this crap. But anyway.
What did you expect? Them to not suspend him?
The NBA and Draymond Green they butt heads. That's just the way it is.
If you don't suspend
he did that to himself, though.
Are you allowing that to happen in the playoffs? Just because it's the playoffs, you don't suspend him? No, that's more of a reason why. It's like you got to keep it in check.
I mean, what does this do to the Warriors? Down 2-0 already.
The Warriors, I think, are done regardless.
The Kings are they're showing out, man.
They're a tough team to stop offensively. They're young, athletic. They got size. They're just well coached across the board. The Kings shocked people this year, and going into the playoffs, it was the lack of experience, but the only way to get it, like the Warriors were the team a decade ago without the experience. There's all these teams. You have to get it. The Kings could be a good team for a few years now.
We shall see. So that is the NBA slate. It all goes down tonight. And, of course, we segue into some big news in the NFL. Trade alert. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rams are in complete fire sale mode, what it seems, and I don't quite understand it. We'll go over it now. But looks like Allen Robinson, pending a physical, will be traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers and a swap of sevenths. So the Steelers are giving a seventh. The Rams are giving a seventh and Allen Robinson. So they're losing completely on this trade. But again, Allen Robinson for a seventh, the biggest thing about this is that if you're looking at this as a salary dump, it's really not, because they're saving $5 million. They're going to be paying Allen Robinson $10 million to not be on the roster this year. That is horrific.
$5 million, we scoff at $5 million.
We do scoff at $5 million. In the grand scheme of things of the NFL?
Yeah, but it's $5 million.
What are you going to do? Add a backup running back? Like, what are we doing?
Put it in my pocket.
You can't do that. If you're the Rams, what
are you talking about?
I don't understand what the Rams are doing right now.
Because they traded their entire defense away. They released everybody on defense. Their offensive line is a complete mess. Matthew Stafford is going to be injured by week 2, so they're going to have no quarterback, right? This is how the Rams are going to play out.
And McVay chose to come back to this.
McVay is also getting paid a ton of money, right? So McVay is like, I'll give you a ton of reasons. And McVay could get out at any given point. But if he can stick around and bring it back again, which I don't see happening.
They went out there and they said, F them draft picks, right? And they sold out and they got themselves a Super Bowl ring. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, that's a huge thing for them. But like in a world now,
it's going to be abysmal for the Rams for a season or two.
This looks brutal right now.
And it doesn't look brutal. Look, when they traded Jalen Ramsey, it should have been like, oh my God, they're getting rid of star players, right? And then when they get rid of Allen Robinson and we're saving $5 million, well, what was Allen Robinson going to do for the Rams this year? Was he going to have 43 catches for 400 yards?
Who knows?
And
you
2
don't
touchdowns?
know. I mean,
well, realistically, if you look at the trends that's happening in his career, and then you look at the rest of that roster.
All right, so I'll ask you this: flip the coin. What does Allen Robinson do for the Steelers?
43 catches, 400 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But it's a guy that has to be. He's anybody that's come from 2 running teams, I'll take on the back end of his career. A guy that has succeeded at all stops outside of the Rams with bad quarterbacks. He's been in with the Bears. He's been with the Rams. Now these 2 teams utilize their receivers in the run blocking schemes a lot. Allen Robinson brings a lot more to the table, and they're only getting him for $5 million. So it's a very good deal for Pittsburgh, and realistically, I think it's a good deal for the Rams too, because they're saving $5 million. We look at it like, it's only $5 million. Well, it's only Allen Robinson, right? They were paying him $15. Now they only got to pay $10 off that. It makes sense. To me, it makes sense.
So Kenny Pickett now is equipped with year 2 of Pickens, Allen Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth, a decent running game, and Najee Harris has to accept you have to assume that he has a better year than he had last year. Steelers are all of a sudden looking okay if Kenny Pickett can deliver.
Yeah, I think Kenny Pickett showed me something last year.
A little.
I think there'll be some improvements. I think he was the clear best quarterback in the draft, right? Out of the early estimations go, to my opinion.
I mean, he was the earliest one picked.
We could say Brock Purdy. Meh. You know what I mean?
Man, the guy almost won
let's put Kenny,
Rookie of the Year.
Kenny Pickett's a 49er last year. What do you think happens? He is the Rookie of the Year.
Truth.
Right? So I think there's a 49er. I could probably play quarterback for the 49ers.
He's not even I think it remotely joking.
Pittsburgh
either.
is better. I'm not. But let's just talk about the Rams, back to the Rams, because I think Pittsburgh, we'll have time to break down what this trade means for them. But there's other things that are attached to this Rams fire sale, and I think it's a little bit older, this news or reports, but it makes sense if consistent with what the Rams have been doing this offseason. Is Aaron Donald a potential guy to get moved? Is Cooper Kupp, which I've seen rumors about Cooper Kupp on draft day, main team being the Giants? Obviously, you see the Giants, and it means like that makes sense. It does. It makes sense for the Packers to be involved.
They don't have the money.
But what it doesn't make sense,
The Giants don't have the money. They
you'd
really
be
don't.
surprised what a restructure.
As long as that means, guess what? Saquon. See you later, pal.
Well, I mean, here's what's happening with Saquon anyway. He's not going to sign the tag. They're not going to pay him, right? He's not going to be.
Saquon's not sitting out.
He's not. He's not going to be at OTAs. But week 1, Saquon will be there on the franchise tag. He's also
just going to play the waiting game and relax.
He's going to wait on
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that works.
But every team in football is going to be curious about Cooper Kupp if he becomes available. So it's not like you're going to just see, all of a sudden out of nowhere, Cooper Kupp to the Giants. You're going to hear several other teams get involved. If Cooper Kupp is on the trade block, the Rams would be foolish to not put him up on the trade block now rather than waiting until some pressure-cooking draft day trade. Makes no sense. I think Cooper Kupp would be a good fit on any team in football. First and a third, maybe another third.
Peter Schrager came out with a mock draft. Do you care to even know?
No. All right. Sure.
I want to run this by just because, look, sometimes it's fun. Bryce Young is the clear-cut number one. It seems to be he's the consensus guy.
He canceled all his meetings with other teams. And
it seems like
Carolina
he's headed to the
came
Panthers.
out yesterday and said that's not true.
No, of course it's not.
You're right.
They're playing a little bit of gamesmanship there. The Texans trade out of the number 2 spot to the Colts. The Colts move up and get C.J. Stroud rather than sit back at 4 and get Anthony Richardson. Huge move for the Colts if that happens. But the problem is, if you're the Texans, you don't have a quarterback until later in the first round. So after that, Will Anderson at chalk, right? Tyree Wilson is the Texans' next pick or first pick, right? So an edge rusher senior out of Texas Tech. It's not until Anthony Richardson, by the way, goes to the Seattle Seahawks at pick 5. So
here's what I don't
successor
understand.
for Geno.
But that's just not happening.
Hendon Hooker goes before Will Levis here. Shrakes, what are we doing, buddy?
There is no shot that they're going to trade the 2 pick to a team in the division so they could draft a quarterback. That is a PR nightmare if that works out for the other team. You can't do it. Not a shot.
Well, you can't say not a shot. Because you said for a quarterback or just anything?
For a quarterback.
Well,
Like
what about a game-changing defensive player that happens?
That's different.
Like Dallas and Philly made that move for Dallas to kind of sit back and wait and get Micah Parsons.
We're talking about the 2 pick and potential franchise quarterback. It's like we don't believe in this guy so much that we're willing to trade you our draft pick and the chance to get him for the next 15 years, and we're willing to play him twice a year. Talk about chip on your shoulder, right? Come on, the Texans they're not going to do that. They're going to pick a quarterback. I'm not buying it. Unless it's a 3 pick and they like another quarterback, I just don't buy it. Like who? No, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. The Texans would be foolish. They would have to get a king's ransom. And, does that even – they already have the draft capital this year. They don't need to move back. They could maybe move up, if anything. That's what I was thinking.
The 10 pick, Philadelphia Eagles, are the ones to take Bijan Robinson here, so that would be atrocious on my end. Will Levis falls to the 12th pick as
It'd be great for you. You would have provided the cautionary tale with Zeke, and then you're going to see 2 teams in your division just not care, right? And then in 3 years, that's going to create a nightmare situation where they're either going to have to pay the running back a shit ton of money, just like the Dallas Cowboys are doing or did, just like the Giants might have to do. Now you're going to have to see that same situation.
Your boys only have 1 pick in this first round, according to this mock draft, and it's pick number 15, and it's Jackson Smith Ninjigba. So that's fun. And then obviously my boys down at 26. If you're looking right,
I will be shocked if the
Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama to the Cowboys. So no way Bijan's off the board, the Cowboys still go running back. I don't find
no
that.
way the Packers are taking a receiver right now. I don't. It's like
what are they going to do?
They have a lot of holes. They can use anything on defense at all times.
My opinion, and I'm not the Packers GM nor a shareholder like you, but I will say if I'm the Packers guy at the front of that office, and I know I'm giving the keys to Jordan Love for the rest of basically his tenure there, or I'm sure he gets paid next, and it's amazing how that dude's going to be next in line for a contract in like a year.
QB1.
Unbelievable.
They actually made the official
but I'm just saying,
depth chart move.
But really?
Yeah.
Is Rodgers on the roster as QB2?
I didn't even see that. No, he's definitely not QB2. He's probably not on the roster.
But he is on the roster.
But he's not on the.
Is that a Packers thing? Website?
Like the Packers definitely have Jordan Love listed at QB1.
No.
Yeah.
There's no effing way. 100%. Hold on. I'm going to go to ESPN just to see what they got going on here.
Oh, ESPN's so good.
No, they are. They are. Depth chart. Aaron Rodgers, QB1.
Well.
Let's see here. Well, let's see. Let's go to the Packers website. This is actually unbelievably breaking news here. If this is the case, like you want to talk about the ultimate slight. Oh, this is
why is it bro? What do you mean a slight?
Because it's just
slighted?
a
He was
slight.
on a friggin' show.
Horrible.
He was on a show talking about it's a slight to who, or it's a like, oh yeah, we don't want to piss off Aaron Rodgers, but it's like Jordan Love is your quarterback now.
You're doing. Nope, depth chart. The first unofficial depth chart for 2023 will be released during training camp.
Are you ready?
They don't want nothing to do with that. Smoke.
I've read the whole article.
But in any event, I want to say that if you're the Packers GM, you got to get some weapons for this guy, whether it be a new tight end, whether it be even an offensive lineman. You got to go offense if you're the Packers. The defense, that'll figure itself out. They weren't atrocious down the backstretch. They played better defense than they did in the beginning of the year. But yeah, so that's that. You find that while I tell the people here to follow us on social media, ladies and gentlemen. You could do that by heading on over to TikTok, Instagram, or the Twitter at Mojo, M-O-J-O, to follow us along with all the fun that's happening over here. And, of course, you could join the Discord right now. That is the daily conversation happening over there on the Discord with, obviously tips and tricks and all sorts of fun stuff on the Mojo app. You have to download the app to be involved. Prop bets come out. They're already out for tonight's games. So right after this show, head on over there, see how you like it, see how you're playing it. I'm down big this week. So I'm gonna tread lightly tonight, and I'm gonna figure out who's not going to perform. Because instead of trying to say everybody's going to ball out, I might take a couple unders and watch those games vividly, and I can pull out that bet and put it right back in. That was perfect.
Hey, yo.
That was perfect way to end the show. Are you still looking for a depth chart?
I'm looking for I know what I saw.
All right. Well, he's going to keep looking for that. For Dave Sturchio, we'll tweet it out later. For Dave Sturchio and Chris Gueci, this has been another episode of the Mojo Market Report. Back here tomorrow. Enjoy the basketball, and we'll talk about it in the morning.